Good morning, YouTube. This is Charles back on the 300 combine. Try to get you guys some more footage here. Haven't been able to get back to it since the storm and stuff, which you can see in the previous videos. We had to take care of snow and etc. Been very busy, and we've also been very cold for Illinois. I'm sure people in the north it's nothing. We've got the power shaft done. Final video of that'll be getting uploaded as soon as I get it edited. I'm going to try to get rid of these bearings today. I'm going to try and remove, I'm going to remove this. This is seized up. It will not pivot to change the speed of the combine. And since I'm working in this quadrant, I call it, I am going to remove that today. And I don't like it, but I'm going to surgically cut those bearings out. I've done it before. You can see it on previous videos, and I did not hurt the shaft. I've done that a lot in my life. I wish I had time to build a puller, but we have tried to pull these before, and what happens is this here usually gets pulled off the bearing. I think they used a compound on those at assembly. I'm sure these are original. And the housing usually gets pulled and sprung, and you go to all that work trying to save it, spending hours getting everything done, and it's just faster to cut them. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring you along. I'm going to try to do better cameraing. I want to stop doing a lot of swinging back and forth when you guys are watching. So I don't know what you all like. If I put you on the tripod and do fast time lapse, taking some bolts out. Everybody generally knows how to take bolts out, so I kind of just do some steps and do some action shots when needed. Tell me in the comments what you like, and if you want me to change something, I'm willing to listen. Mainly doing this to record it for people in the future and my sons, so that they know how to work on this if they desire to keep it, or if they get rid of it, that's up to them. But I'm going to show them what we did, and one is helping, the other one's a little too young yet, but hopefully they'll look back on them and enjoy them. So here we go today. Alright, the nuts and bolts have been removed, so coming off easier than I thought it would. So that's off, and now it can be worked on. Once I took the holder out of the frame there's enough flex there and movement to pull them away to do that. So now there's nothing to do but to do it. So let's get wrenching, hot wrenching that is. I'll be using a standard cutting torch. We do use propane instead of acetylene. I grew up on acetylene, but many years ago there was an explosion in Louisville, Kentucky at the acetylene plant, and Elmo products that we use could not get us acetylene. My uncles used propane, and I started using it and learned how to use it. Had to have propane tips, and I've never went back, and it saved me a lot of money. And my opinion, it works just as good. I don't use it every day. But so we've been on propane instead of acetylene for many years, and of course our oxygen. And I'm going to use a very low setting and be very patient with my work to not get into the shafts. what I can clean out of there. Got rid of one of the balls pretty well. And the cage. I just take my time and clean a little bit more out. It should almost be there. There's one of them. And there's another. Try to do it a little bit at a time. We can also go over and turn the cylinder. Sometimes that helps. Now I could rotate it, bring the balls up some more. I'm going to cut out 2 or 3 more, and then that should come off. So, there we go. That should be enough. You always want to make sure it ain't burning on the inside, which it's not. Alright, I got it cleaned out. And we will get it off now. If you're doing this on a combine that's not clean, you've got to be very careful that you don't burn your combine up. We did not hurt the dust shield. See, there's crop residue back there. We did not hurt the cone dust shield. Everything can be cleaned. There's a cone in here that the shaft goes in. I'll get a close-up for you here in a second. And we didn't hurt it. We'll get the slag off of everything. So, we want to make sure that nothing is on fire here. And you got a clean floor where you're blowing everything. So now we're down to the race. So let me clean up and we'll get back to that. This is the crop residue I'm talking about. What you got here is bean pummy and dust that'll be behind it. So you got to be careful. We'll sweep that up now and take it outside. Got it all blowed off. Got it blowed off the side of the combine here. Now we've got a clear race we can attempt to pull. We don't want to damage this. This is what gives us our RPM readout on the cylinder in the cab. And you can see I did not blow through the dust shield, so that's always a good thing right there. You don't want to have so much heat you're just blowing right through there into the cylinder, especially you don't have the luxury of having your combine disassembled like this. That's why I'm doing these things now, because I don't want to do them again. So now comes, we can try a pull attempt on the race, see if the heat we put on it helped. That would be nice. We're done cutting, but it didn't work the last time. This is just how ornery these things can be. Like, you can't even get this small puller in there. So that's frustrating. All right. I spun it around. We got it cut through right there, and I don't believe we've got into the shaft. And now we're going to cut a slice on the other side to weaken it. I have actually spun it by hitting it with a chisel on the shaft, so that's good. If I could get a puller behind it, I could probably get it off, but I'm going to try to thin it out on this side, and then see if I can open it up with a chisel and get her off of there. Got a little bit too close for comfort, got the dust shield a little red, but it didn't go through, thank goodness. And now we're ready. The bottom's already fell off. It's out here on the ground. We're ready to do it. All right, you can see that we have it cut off, and there we go. I won't hold this too long here. There we go. Yep, right in there. You see that rust that's on there? See, that's out of it. So I think I did it, but I can't tell for sure. I didn't see that when we started, so I'm pretty sure I did it. I don't think we've had any spun bearing or anything. Back there it does look like a lip, but we're good to go. Let's clean that up and see. If it is spun, then we got to pull the whole shaft, which I've done before too on the disassembly video, and we have one that'll go right in here, and we won't even have to fix that one if it's spun. So we'll check it out. There you can see inside the rust that was on it. So I don't think I think that would have been the exact same thing we were battling on the other combine. I did get into, let's see if it'll focus right there. And I remember now, that was where the lock collar was. And that is a machined edge. That's not spun on there. So all we got to do is clean this up. This will be fine. It won't hurt the integrity of it. Got to clean this up and get where the bearing slides on, and then get the race cleaned up. Get the outer or the bearing holder cleaned up, and that bearing out of there, which will be pretty easy. That bearing outer race. So, going to go move along up here. And we're going to rinse and repeat, if you will. Pardon the noise in the background. Timothy's working on his project. So we're going to get those cleaned out of there and have this side done, and then start prepping to put it back together. Okay, we have had success. Did not get into this shaft. She's still a little warm, and I can't touch it, but I did not get into it. So there is the rear beater. It's time for cleaning now, which I won't videotape that. When I did the lock collar, I did get into this one. I'm going to go over the bearings here in a minute. That's not going to hurt anything. That will be fine. Going to go over the bearings that we cut off. When I was working on the rear beater, and I got this one, you can see right there, it broke. I tried to cut them and just leave a little bit and then hit them with a chisel, and they usually break. But there was dust, rust dust pluming out from when I was hitting on it and getting it off the shaft. I am positive this would not have moved, just like all the others I have attempted would not have moved. I'm positive of that. This was where I got into the shaft on the cylinder, not the rear beater, when I was getting rid of this lock collar. I could not get this lock collar off. I did manage to finally get this one broke loose on the rear beater. The other thing that's very interesting and a story to tell is this is an SKF bearing. This is a Koyo, and or no, vice versa. This one is a SKF, and this one on the rear beater was a Koyo, Koyo. It's right there. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. There you go. I thought Massey only used SKF because every bearing I removed off the disassembly machine a year ago was SKF. Every one of them I cut. So I looked up Koyo. They actually go all the way back to 1921. They're still around, so I think they make good bearings, and I guess Massey was interchanging with SKF and Koyo, probably depending on what they could get at the times. So this machine, I've found several Koyo bearings on it. I think that's an interesting insight. I don't know what it means anything, but the only numbers I could find was actually on the lock collars. There is no numbers on any of these that I cut off, no numbers on the outer races or anything. So it's cleanup time, and we have the new bearings, and we will make sure they fit, and we will go over that. I have one other thing to go over with you. Behind the race of the rear beater, as I suspected, was some shim stock. And the book referenced these, but the picture showed them being on the other side. So I have to get 2 of these from Massey. They're about 40 thousandths. They're like a 32nd or something I measured out. What that does, that allows the beater to be up against your bearing there. It takes up that gap so that the beater does not float side to side and get into the sidewall of the combine. Very important. And I looked and I looked and I said, I'm pretty sure they're back there. But what I found was, how else are you going to get them off when it's flush up against the bearing that you have to cut? So I got into it, got into that one especially. Probably could clean that up and use it, because really, where's it going to go? But we're going to get new ones. And that's what we're going to have to do there. Once again, going back to our book, after showing you the shims, you can see here everything, but we do not show any shims behind here. However, part 11 is the washer spacer, 1/31/32 by 2 3/8 by 1/32. And it doesn't show a quantity, so that has to be determined probably by each machine. So we got to get 2 of those, and I also need the snap ring that goes in, that the big pulley goes against, part number 15. Ring snap self-retaining. Says 2 required. It's only 1. I don't know why that says 2, but anyway, that is what we got to get coming our way. So we are not quite at a standstill. We have to clean. We've already been, these have all been sandblasted and polished down and taped off and bearings checked for fitment. When I go to put the bearings in, I will give you part numbers using an FYH bearing. This is what my supplier sent me. It does have a grease track here. I really don't think that'll cause me any trouble. It's going to be in there and nothing can get in it, I don't think. The old ones did not have that, but I didn't specify that when I ordered. So anyway, moving along, now I'm going to work on the shafts with emery cloth. and see what we can do with those and work on fitment for those, and then maybe we can get the parts ordered Monday, send an email off to our parts supplier at Massey Coons Equipment in Arthur, Illinois, and see what we can do. I've been cleaning this area up right here and preparing for when we have our shim stock. We have our new bearing sliding on like it's supposed to. Had to work with emery cloth. I did not get into the shaft. Shaft is like new. So now we've got that done. We got our housings here drying. Tomorrow we'll fit our bearings in there. We've got this cleaned up. I'm not painting the backside because I want them to be totally against the machine. So now I'll work on my threads, make sure the threads on the bolts are good, clean the bolts or the nuts, and then work on the cylinder shaft. All right, we have this working. So we've got that ready to go together. And we need to clean up this surface and do the threads. And we should be ready for reassembly. Now, I think tomorrow we can reassemble this, but we have to wait for our shim stock up there. So let me clean that surface, and we're about to call it a day. We are waiting for paint to dry. We're ready for reassembly. We will call this good. Everything's ready to go back together. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. It took us a while to get things ready today, but we're going to be able to start putting more parts back on the unit.